Hello everyone and welcome back to the video. Today we're going to be talking about the top 5 most well-rounded civilizations in Age of Empires 2, and we're going to be basing this off of the tech trees. So I went ahead and looked at all of the civilizations and I picked up the ones that have the best and most diverse tech trees in the game. These civilizations would be great for people that like a lot of options and don't like to be forced into one kind of unit or else the civilization just falls flat. Those one-trick kind of civilizations are solid for some players, but let's be honest, some players also just like the diversity and like to mix and match units and compositions. These 5 civilizations will have the most amount of options available to them, and they're also going to be able to get to those options in a realistic manner and not just have some random economy techs that are available and therefore it's a very well-rounded tech tree. I tried to make it a practical application and not just counting how many techs are available and basing the decision on that. And just for the sake of my sanity, I've left out water techs for the most part in this video and kind of put them as a secondary. But as you'll see, most of these civilizations actually have really good water tech as well, as it so happens to be. Alright, with that said, let's go ahead and hop right into the top 5. But first, we have to thank the sponsor of today's video. This video is sponsored by Star Trek Fleet Command. Star Trek Fleet Command is a strategy game that unfolds in a vast open world, featuring hundreds of star systems to explore. Players can navigate the galaxy, discovering planets, space stations, and mysterious anomalies. Much like in Age of Empires, base management and development is absolutely essential. Building and upgrading your space station is crucial to ensuring the long-term success of your empire. Each facility enhances defense, boosts production, and unlocks new technological researches. But of course, just development on its own is not enough. You also need to worry about your military. Players can collect and upgrade legendary ships like the USS Enterprise, the Klingon D4, or the Romulan Valdor. Each vessel can be optimized with iconic officers such as Kirk, Spock, or Khan, whose unique abilities influence combat and exploration. But of course, you're not going to be playing this alone. Players can join factions, the Federation, the Klingons, or the Romulans, and force alliances to expand their territory. PvP and PvE battles allow players to test their skills against others or AI-controlled opponents. By joining an alliance, players gain strategic support, access to production bonuses, and the ability to participate in territory wars to control key sectors of the galaxy. It's a game about expansion, base development, and military dominance, and it's yours to play right now. Download Star Trek Fleet Command on your PC or mobile device now and claim promo code Voyager30 to unlock Neelix. Alright, starting off with number 5, we've got the Georgians. The Georgians are a really strong civilization, as we all know. It's probably one of the best in the game, at least for 1v1 Arabia at the moment. But the Georgians don't get their strength just from the raw power of some of their units. They actually have a really good tech tree as well. If you take a look at the options that the Georgians have, they basically have fully upgraded infantry and fully upgraded cavalry, only missing access to the paladin. They also have very solid range options, getting access to elite skirmisher, heavy cav archer with Parthian tactics and only missing thumb ring, as well as the hand cannoneer in Imperial Age. Supplies and gambesons are there to ensure their champion play is tip-top shape, and of course they're not even lacking in the siege department, only missing bombard cannon but getting access to siege ram, siege onager, and heavy scorpion. And to make matters even better for the Georgians, they also get access to siege engineers to boost all 3 of these strong late game options. In the blacksmith, they're only missing 1 tech, which is the ring archer armor, which, let's be honest, is probably the least important unless you're talking about late game skirmishers, but the fact that they have bracer makes their late game skirms still quite solid. And when it comes to special tech from the university, the Georgians are not lacking in the slightest. They get access to the keep, arrow slits, masonry, and architecture, as well as their unique tech Svan towers that will actually buff all of their tower plays, starting from the castle age onwards. It's a very strong option to tech into for the Georgians, especially in team games where you have that trade funneling you infinite gold, which can be transformed into stone at the market. And just when you thought you had the Georgians all figured out, they also, as it turns out, have really good monk techs. They have all the monk techs available minus atonement and illumination, which really aren't the craziest techs or the most important ones unless you're talking about certain specific situations. Redemption, sanctity, block printing, the 3 most important techs are all there, as well as a few other options to pick from. And not that it matters too much, but they also have really good economy techs available, missing only gold chef mining and 2-man saw, and having the rest available at their disposal. Overall, the Georgians are a very solid civilization with a very diverse tech tree, suitable for all players. Moving on to number 4, we've got a civilization that's kind of overlooked when it comes to how well-rounded it is. That it's because it is missing one of the most key upgrades in the entire game. And before all of the expansions that we got with the definitive edition, it was actually the only civ in the game that's missing crossbowmen. Can you guess what civ it is? That's right. It's the Spanish. The Spanish was the only civilization to miss access to the crossbowman tech when it comes to the Conqueror's expansion, and to this day it's definitely quite a downside to miss access to, the foot archer line entirely past feudal age. But hey, the Spanish actually have a really good tech tree besides this. For example, they have all the upgrades at the blacksmith available, meaning they have fully upgraded elite skirmisher, fully upgraded cavalry archer minus Parthian tactics. Yes, they even get thumb ring, believe it or not, and then they also get access to hand cannoneer. Their barracks is in tip-top shape, getting access to both champion and halberdier with full upgrades including supplies and gambeson. And when you look through this table, they have literally everything available minus regional unique units, hussar, paladin with full upgrades. And if you thought that they were lacking in the siege department, I would argue that you're probably half wrong and half right. Sure, they don't have access to siege onager nor heavy scorpion, but they have access to bombard cannon, onager, and siege ram. Of course, the only downside though is that they don't have siege engineers, so I would give the siege workshop a B+ at most, which is still quite valid. As far as university goes, besides siege engineers, they only miss treadmill crane and heated shots, both of which are not very important, having access to everything else including bomber towers, which are quite a solid late game option. It's also cool that they have access to both keep and bomber towers, so I guess you can mix and match as you see fit. And when we take a look at their monastery, we see that they have all the monastery techs available, which only a few civilizations in the game have, which is definitely a really big strength of the Spanish. And on top of that, they have a unique unit in the monastery, the missionary. So as far as options go from the monastery, they are absolutely stacked. And a quick look at the eco upgrades shows that we're pretty decked out, only missing gold shaft mining and crop rotation, which aren't really the most important upgrades in most scenarios. So the Spanish are definitely a very strong and versatile civilization with a nice and diverse tech tree for you to pick from. And one thing I forgot to mention is that they also get access to supremacy villas, making villagers a very solid option in the late game for both fighting and defending raids. Love the supremacy tech. Alrighty, moving on to number 3, we've got a civilization that's absolutely known for its versatility, and that is the Chinese. If you let any pro talk about versatility, they always have to mention the Chinese because they simply have one of the best tech trees in the game, except a few noticeable options, like for example gunpowder. But besides gunpowder, they have fully upgraded arbalest, fully upgraded heavy cav archer minus Parthian tactics, elite skirmisher intact of course. Their barracks is solid with fully upgraded champions and halberdier, except supplies and gambesons, but get everything else. And as far as their stable goes, they're missing hussar and paladin, but they get access to fully upgraded light cav, cavalier, and heavy camel rider. Their siege is solid. They get siege ram, onager, and heavy scorpion, but they miss bombard cannon and siege onager, and unfortunately they also miss siege engineers. So some things are lacking in the siege workshop, but this is where they really shine. They have all tech at the blacksmith, and I mentioned at the start of the video that we also have to consider how easy it is to use this tech tree. And when it comes to the Chinese, it's so easy to use their tech tree because all of their technologies come at a discount that gets better as you age on. Really strong civilization when it comes to mixing different kinds of units and getting them all fully upgraded as soon as possible. Their university is absolutely solid, only missing siege engineers and treadmill crane, but having access to bomber tower and keep in the late game, as well as all the building HP upgrades that you might need. It is worth mentioning that they miss hoardings from the castle, but honestly, with the tech Great Wall giving you extra HP on walls and towers, you don't really rely on only castles for your defense in the late game, so I'd argue that you're more than fine with this trade-off. Their monastery is pretty solid, but you do miss redemption and heresy, which are some big techs to miss. Redemption especially hurting your all-in monk play and your monk defense when you're up against siege. But besides that, you have all the good options that you want from the monastery and definitely have some viable monks that you can go for. And a quick look at their eco upgrades shows that you have everything minus guilds and crop rotation, which aren't the most important techs once again, so you get a double thumbs up from me. Overall, the Chinese are the definition of a versatile civilization, and they get their best versatility in the castle age when you don't have to worry about missing any kind of gunpowder. In the castle age, truthfully, you have literally everything in the game, all at a discount. Such an amazing civ, and it's why it's considered one of the best civilizations right now for 1v1 Arabia. Moving on to number 2, we've got the Saracens. The Saracens have a very wide tech tree, and they've got a ton of options to pick from, including some very unique options that are also very strong, and probably their best options overall. But as far as generic options, they are not lacking. Their range is absolutely stacked. They get literally everything from the range. Oh, and did I mention their blacksmith? It's also fully teched out. They get all the blacksmith upgrades. So their archery range is perfectly upgraded from the range with Arbalest, Hand Cannoneer, Heavy Cav Archer, Parthen Tactic Thumbring, you name it, as well as fully upgraded from the Blacksmith. How cool is that? Moving on to their barracks, they have literally everything once again, except the Halberdier. But that hardly matters because you get some of the best camos in the game. I can argue that that is even better than generic fully upgraded halbs. And hey, fully upgraded pikemen is not half bad either. Going on to their stable, they are lacking a pretty significant unit, Cavalier and Paladin. But hey, once again, have I mentioned that they got really strong heavy camel riders? I don't think so. They've got the camels, but they've also got the hussars. So honestly, if you're talking to me under the table, you barely need the Cavalier. Go for the hussar. Go for the camel, you won't regret it. Moving on to their siege, they've got incredible siege options as well, getting access to siege ram, siege onager, and bombard cannon, only missing heavy scorpion from their siege heavy hitters in late game. And honestly, you won't miss the heavy scorpion because you got camels. No, I'm just kidding. Because you got siege onagers with their unique tech, the counterweights, which gives them extra damage, which is very, very solid. Their university is pretty solid. You get siege engineers and you miss only heated shot, bomber towers, and architecture. Listen, it kind of sucks missing bomber towers in late game, but you get fully upgraded keeps, which is quite solid in its own right. So you still have some kind of keep play that you can go for, but obviously missing architecture means it's not going to be the strongest in the game. But as a secondary option, it's still good enough. It's worth mentioning that you do have hoardings, and for some reason you miss the sappers. So I guess if you're in the situation where you need, villagers hitting rams for extra damage, Saracens is not good for that specific situation, but you probably just use your camels. And once again, taking a look at the monastery, we've got all the tech available. Wow, it's like every civ in the game has all the tech available in the monastery. I swear that's the impression you're getting from this video, but I promise that's not the case. Take a look at the Bulgarian tech tree. Oh my god, we should nerf it some more. Moving on though, taking a look at the eco techs for the Saracens in late game, we're missing guilds, crop rotation, and stone chef mining, but missing guilds is completely fake because the Saracens have a bonus that buffs the market. So that one is basically like you have guilds. Trust me, it's built in. You don't even need to worry about guilds. It's bought and paid for. And as always, missing stone chef mining literally doesn't matter, and crop rotation is not the biggest of deals. So I'm gonna give you 2 thumbs up for the late game Saracen eco techs. Overall, and one thing that I forgot to mention for the Saracens, but it's definitely worth mentioning, is their really strong unique unit, the Mameluke. The Mameluke almost acts as a whole other option in of itself that gives you such a strong power unit that you can go for that basically does everything anti-cavalry and basically anti-melee as well, as long as you're able to kite with their 3 range and avoid extra damage that comes your way. The Mameluke is probably the staple for the Saracens in late game, but as you can see, they've got a ton of other options that they can go for depending on the situation. Before I show you guys number 1 that is absolutely and painfully obvious at the moment, and I'm sure even the most casual player out there can guess what number 1 is, I will run through some honorable mentions very quickly. You've got the Incas that are actually very versatile. It sucks because Mesocivs are at a disadvantage. They get no stable access whatsoever. Unless you convert one, hey, then you got Shalada warriors that can come out and do some damage. But besides those guys, you got no stable access. So Incas or Mesocivs in general are at a disadvantage, but the Incas have a really strong tech tree overall, and all their units are discounted in terms of food. They also get access to the Slinger, which kind of replaces the Hand Cannoneer. So overall, the Incas are a very solid and versatile civilization, despite missing key things like gunpowder and cavalry. And I also want to give a quick shout out to the Magyars. They are one of the only civilizations in the game, if not the only one, that gets fully upgraded Arbalest, Paladin, and Cavalry Archers. And to make matters even sweeter for the Magyars, they also get a unique tech for their Cav Archers recurve bow that makes them even stronger. So the Magyars can definitely pack a punch with their strong gold options, but the only reason that I didn't include them is that they miss a lot of other techs in their tree, and it didn't feel like it competed with some of the others on the list. But definitely number 6 or number 7 for the Magyars. All right, now it's time for the number 1, the moment you've all been predicting. I'm sure it's so predictable, it's almost painful. We've got the Byzantines. The Byzantines are basically what you think of when it comes to flexibility and versatility. They literally get every option you can think of, and the 3 of their unit lines, the counter units, Skirm, Halb, and Camel, come at a 25% discount. And any text they're missing in those categories is simply to offset how ridiculously strong this discount is. So I count them as fake missing text, and they should be taken with a grain of salt. Starting off with their range, the Byzantines get access to literally everything minus Parthen tactics. So definitely, whatever you're looking for as far as backline DPS, you've got access to it. Moving on to their barracks, they've got everything. It's actually insane. They even get gambesons. I didn't even know that, but they get it. Moving on to the stable, they get, wait, everything minus bloodlines. But I swear to you, that's fake. They need to balance out and take away bloodlines, or else their camel riders will literally be overpowered, because 25% discount needs to have some kind of downside, and we take away their bloodlines. But besides that, they get Hussar and Paladin that are quite reasonable for the late game. Moving on to the Siege, again, decent options, missing access to Heavy Scorpion and Siege Onager, but you get everything else, including Bombard Cannon and Siege Ram. Quite the solid choices to pick from. And as far as their Blacksmith goes, you get literally everything available except Blast Furnace. But again, this is just to balance out their camels and also to balance out the Cataphracts and the Paladin a little bit, I believe, because with Blast Furnace, it can get really out of hand. Moving on to their University, once again, they are missing techs like Masonry and Architecture, but that is fake because you get a bonus that gives you extra HP on your buildings. So you basically get these tech in for free. Same thing when it comes to Town Watch and Town Patrol, you get those techs for free. It's not the same thing, but it's similar. Aside from that, you do miss Siege Engineers and Heated Shot, which is probably the most impactful thing, not Heated Shot, but Siege Engineers. As far as missing an upgrade goes for the Byzantine, that is pretty much their one big weakness that isn't really compensated for. Their Siege could lack a range and that could hurt you, which sucks. But aside from that, you get Bomber Towers, you get Arrow Slits, you get Keep, all of which have extra HP built in, which is very, very solid. Once again, you miss Sappers. I'm noticing a trend here. Sappers, it's a key tech, man. You're sleeping on it. And as far as the Monastery, you get literally everything available to you except Herbal Medicine. But once again, that is fake because you don't need Herbal Medicine for the Byzantine. Your monk heal like 100 times faster. Okay, the correct number is 100% faster, which is basically 100 times faster if you think about it. Don't think about it. Moving on to their late game text just to take a look, and Byzantine are the only civilization on the list that has every single economy tech in the game. You don't even miss guilds, everything available to you, so you're absolutely stacked for the late game with the Byzantine. Overall, I'd say that Byzantines is the most versatile civilization in the entire game and definitely worthy of the #1 spot. In fact, it's the civilization I recommend to newer players who don't want to commit to one specific unit and want to have as many options as possible available. Byzantines are a very versatile civilization and you've got a ton of options that are at the tip of your fingers and most of which are discounted. Thank you so much for watching the video. Let me know if I missed any versatile civilization. I know my texture knowledge is not exactly the best, so it's very possible I might have overlooked a thing or two. So definitely let me know in the comments if I slept on one or two options, and you guys can clue me in there and teach me a thing or two about the tech trees and versatility of these civilizations. And as always, if you want more content from me, check me out on Patreon for the guides and build orders, and on Twitch for the live streams, linked to both in the description below. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and stay safe until next time. Peace.